Hernandez v. Texas, a case that revolved around discrimination against Mexican Americans in the Southwest. It was the first time that the issue of Mexican American civil rights had ever reached the United States Supreme Court. Gustavo Garcia was a vital member of the legal team. Life in the 1950s was very difficult for Hispanics. We were considered second-rate. We were not considered intelligent. We were considered invisible. Discrimination had become a harsh fact of Mexican American life over the 100 years since the end of the Mexican War. In his law office in San Antonio, Gus Garcia listened to Pete Hernandez's mother. Garcia realized that there was more to this case than a small-town murder. Pete Hernandez was guilty, but they had been looking for a significant case that would bring about a ruling from the higher court that segregation or discrimination against Mexican Americans would be illegal. The key issue for Garcia was not whether Pete Hernandez shot Joe Espinoza. It was that, like many Latino defendants before him, Hernandez's fate would be decided by an all-Anglo jury. There were 70 or more counties in Texas that had never had a Hispanic on a jury, just because they didn't think we could do anything worthwhile. Pete Hernandez's trial was set for October 8, 1951. At the pre-trial hearing, Garcia argued that Hernandez was being denied a jury of his peers, that the practice of excluding Mexican American jurors was fundamentally unfair. Pete Hernandez was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison. His lawyers immediately appealed. The case of Hernandez v. Texas was scheduled for an oral argument before the Supreme Court on January 11, 1954. Finally, on May 3, 1954, the United States Supreme Court announced its ruling. The decision of the Texas court was reversed. Pete Hernandez would receive a new trial before a proper jury of his peers.
Garcia and a powerful legal team were appealing the conviction of a Mexican American by an all-white jury.
He was not given all of his rights as a citizen, and Gus picked it up and he took it to the Supreme Court.
And won the landmark case under the 14th Amendment, guaranteeing equal protection under the law for Mexican Americans, eventually leading to school desegregation and other victories for their civil rights.
He was a genius. I mean, and people say when you heard him talk, te dejaba con la boca abierta.
Yet too often, they say, Gus Garcia's astounding legal genius for civil rights has been overshadowed by his untimely death at 48.
The victory in Hernandez v. Texas was huge for the Mexican American community. They now had the highest court in the land saying it was unconstitutional and unfair to treat Mexicans as if they're an inferior race. This case is incredibly important because it guarantees Mexican Americans are still protected under the laws of this great land. Thanks to Gustavo Garcia, after the Hernandez v. Texas case, Mexican Americans across the country would no longer be considered second-class citizens under the law. The lives of millions of Americans had been changed forever.